Heed not the crazed ramblings of an old and maddened crystal sage who once dwelled in a time of lore aplenty, but listen all the same. The golden leaves tell a story, but they don't tell the whole of it.
As your maiden, allow me to divine them. All that there is came from the one great. Then came fractures, and births, and souls. But the greater will made a mistake. Torment, despair, affliction, every sin, every curse, every one born of the mistake. And so, what was borrowed must be returned, melted all away with the yellow chaos flame.
Then allow me to paint you the full picture.
The fractured world the demigods now inherit was once whole, all things stemming from the one great tree whose roots spread throughout all the lands between. It sat upon the spot where the Erdtree currently resides, its vast network of roots beginning here before being severed from those of the Erdtree, an act not hidden from a famed crucible knight who boldly clings to the past with her head ornamentation whilst in full view of the seat of the Prince of Death. Whoever or whatever decided to plant this tree placed it right upon the source of two great rivers, underground rivers that connect to various places throughout the land. One such place is the Lake of Rot, where the essence of a god of rot, said to be rot itself, is sealed within stagnant waters. Gods and rivers seem to mix well and go hand in hand. This is reflected in how some spirits take on the form of sea life, a god being sealed and resisted by imitating flowing water, and godlike beings choosing to battle above or below water. The formless nature of spirituality seems to be found in both blood and where water is present universally, as if water and blood flow are the essence of the soul.
I will soon lay with Godwyn the new life of the Golden Prince, and first dead of the demigods, our Lord will rise, the Lord of the many and the meek.
High above the city, near the entrance of the Erdtree, sits the Elden throne, while deep below the city, nuzzled in its blackened, fly and maggot-ridden roots, is the throne of the Prince of Death, life sprouting from death as it does from birth. This being the way of the living, this being the remnants of the mother of all crucibles, now far removed from its home where all life was once blended together. The seeds of this tree, unlike those of the Erdtree, were pine cone-shaped, and its bark was white, as seen when the mending rune of death is added back to the Erdtree. The Erdtree, on the other hand, produced golden seeds that produce illusionary trees that did not start appearing in the lands between until after the shattering. It was as if all life born of a great mistake foresaw the end that was coming as death found its way back into the world. A big giveaway that the current Erdtree is a fake is the fact that all minor Erdtrees produce crystal tears and not amber. According to the crystal cadre of the early academy, the wisdom of the stone is actually the oddity that crystallians are made of crystal and possess life. The seed of stars, the amber of the stars, the life embedded in glintstone/crystals, and the amber of the Erdtree are all the same thing with two key differences. Ancient life is able to be stored in golden amber like a soul and hold its vitality, such as that seen with beasts, while residual life is thought to be the souls of sorcerers housed within primeval glintstone, holding the vitality of beings referred to as stars. All sorcery tracing its roots back to stars of which they called themselves children of. The mistake cannot be blamed upon the sorcerers, as one look at how primeval glintstone transforms into an estelle with time makes it all but apparent to a primeval sorcerer that they are related. A crystal tree can produce souls, be seen as warm and gentle like the Erdtree as it alters light around itself, and produce pine cone-like seeds. Before it fractured, everything was one whole. Before it split apart, plants and animals would share traits, as we see with animal-like Miranda flowers and budding antlers of the ancestral spirits. Trees became the dominant form of plant life, while mushrooms took shape in the roots of dying trees. Mushrooms share 50% of our DNA and are more closely related to animals. Many mushrooms are described as finger-like, And mushrooms are often found on the wandering corpses and clay men. Mushrooms are the life that sprout from death, from which we have some relation. Since Mitur is a star born of a tree, all things in a sense are 50% mushroom and 50% tree. Mushrooms, after all, grow on the roots of dying trees. The most common species is known as the fairy ring, which creates rings around where a tree has fallen. Every great tree is a crucible where all manners of life, even that born from death, are blended together through its roots, the power of which flows the strongest within drakes and ancestral spirits, beings who, upon their death, continue to live and whose power gathers back to its place of origin. One within a beast that grows crystal flower-shaped horns while covered in a bioluminescent crystal moss. The other a cursed-looking fire kept in an offering bowl. One power returns to the body, the other returns to the soul. All great trees can be considered giants from which crucible knots containing all aspects of the crucible would form and birth different forms of life. Beast would use stone as their first weapon, which shares similarities with both the Crystalians and Alabaster Lords, who would come later. Beast being the ancestor of men who, through gifts of the Dragon Lord, would make things beyond the craftsmanship of men.
A crown is warranted with strength.
Giants are the forebears of man who, upon their quelling, turned against one another. Ancient man, possessing different aspects of the crucible, praised some aspects more than others. Those who had certain aspects or lacked any aspect were deemed lesser in all forms, from trolls to drakes and even demi-humans. Over time, these traits became vestigial, born from devolution, and were increasingly disdained as an impurity as civilization advanced. These humans would be known as beasts, beast men, who would feel their bestial, crucible nature slipping away as civilization improved and return when civilization was crumbling. Man had inherited the crucible long ago, and thus did it grow on their bodies as mankind is part tree. The Guardians set displays a blood-red flower bloomed on some of their bodies to signify the deterioration/senescence of an ancient pact. A pact being similar to a vow, accord, and a concord means that there are dire consequences when it is broken. A blessing once given would become a gnawing curse from which there is no deliverance. This would signify the influence and/or birth of the god of rot, the blood star, the fell god, and their many followers to punish humanity for their sin, who now comprise many different races across the lands between.
America! Is this what it is to sin? Will things never be the same again?
Your strength, extraordinary. The mark of a true lord.
This would signify the influence and/or birth of the god of rot, the blood star, the fell god, and their many followers to punish humanity for their cardinal sins, who now comprise many different races and civilizations across the lands between. This would just be the beginning of many unspoken battles and the rise and fall of those vying to become Elden Lord. Long ago, in a world unfractured, there existed many an age, each and all ushered in by a lord of immense strength and an Empyrean, the chosen of the gods. Each god of the coming age is chosen by the vassals of the outer gods known as Fingers and the Elden Beast. Those who come to wield destructive power can be called a lord. A lord must then face battle and death countless times to defeat the other lords vying for lordship. When a draw occurs and no other lord is fit for lordship, the current god flees, and the new god does not usher in a new age. The age will then suffer a blight that was once considered a blessing, each manifesting as the influence of an outer god. When life is pushed to its limits, those without wisdom and guidance will be awakened, ushered back from death's violet slumber to embrace, mend, or divest the world of its current order. At the same time, a secret rite can be enacted. A second Empyrean allowed to elevate themselves into godhood and appoint themselves a consort. The new age is unable to start until the Lord and God of the old age have been dethroned and pushed out of power. An Elden Lord only exists to war and establish an order. They become tarnished without war and the hue of their eyes fade. Such things signaling the end of an age and the start of another. In the realm of the Erdtree, now known as the Lands Between, lay buried in its roots three wisdoms. The wisdom of the fingers, the wisdom of the stone, and the wisdom of the moon. Fingers predate all wisdom, but all wisdom did not start until the birth of the two fingers. The wisest of beasts, the turtle would come to represent the crucible with their intertwined necks, of which a long-aged king would imitate with his two necks. A wise king indeed, who would feel reason to elevate the lesser beasts into intelligence, with 5 fingers becoming the symbol of the act. Beasts are the ancestors of mankind, and as such, these wisdoms evolved over time with man, who spread and took on a myriad of forms. The 5 stages of human evolution are known as Australopithecus, meaning southern ape, Homo habilis, meaning handy man, Homo erectus, meaning upright man, Homo neanderthalensis, meaning new man, and Homo sapiens, meaning wise man, and are the history of the world placed upon one hand. The mother of the fingers starts at the thumb and can do very little without her children. The wisdoms beginning with the birth of the 2 fingers on the second finger. Through the dragons they would begin to grant beast intelligence, aiding the rapid evolution of humans known as the southern ape. The handymen start at the 3rd finger of what we will refer to as the 3 fingers. They would show giants, the forebearers of man, how to smith and use fire. New man begins at 4 fingers, where humanity is starting to become wise enough to be independent, or, as it is said, become wizened fingers. Only with a wizened finger/finger maiden can a wise man be made at 5. So far we only know of 3 wise men in the span of prehistoric history. They can be described simply as the 3 wise kings. All of which would bring offerings to a child of a virgin mother after following some kind of star. One would take the form of a dragon and bring the gift of gold that invites runes and promises life eternal. Gold is a precious metal and, as such, was a very valuable commodity. Gold is a symbol of divinity, symbolic of divinity or God in flesh. The blood in Miquela's veins. One would take the form of a queen and bring the gift of frankincense, which is a resin used in aromatics and perfumes. Frankincense, often hailed as the king of oils, has a rich history dating back thousands of years. Known for its distinctive aroma and profound healing properties, this resin has been cherished across civilizations for its dual capabilities in both spiritual and medicinal realms. Extracted from the bark, it is considered from a sacred incense to a modern-day super ingredient, showcasing its timeless relevance and versatility. Also known as a beacon of tranquility, its calming scent acts directly on the brain's emotional center, helping promote mental clarity and reducing stress levels. Soothing the mind, offering a moment of peace amidst the chaos. Frankincense is a white resin or gum. It is obtained from a tree by making incisions in the bark and allowing the gum to flow out. It is highly fragrant when burned and was therefore used in worship, where it was burned as a pleasant offering. Frankincense is a symbol of holiness and righteousness. The gift of frankincense to the Christ child was symbolic of his willingness to become a sacrifice, wholly giving himself up, analogous to a burnt offering. The 3 fingers going on to be called the burnt fingers and the root of all the madness. What would know better how to use the forge than someone who was sacrificed within it? The last wise king would take the form of a god and bring the gift of myrrh. A reddish-brown dried sap that comes from a thorny tree is often used in ointments and burned with frankincense at places of worship to purify the air and prevent the spread of contagions. It also increases the chance of blood clotting. A god indeed could purify the air, remove thorns instead of invoking them, and make ointments without flies finding their way into them. But it was not to be, as this king was not a king, this god was not a god, he was but a champion. And as all champions know what is at stake, the child inheriting all the curses of these wise kings, the gold of eternal youth, the maddening want for sacrifice, and the desire to heal the world. The entreaty of the word, endure, becoming a curse from where there is no deliverance except through death.